Historical and Archeological Society that is sponsoring this event. We also have Michael over from the Oshkosh Public Library, who has graciously allowed us to be in this fantastic 1895 dome. We're also happy to have one of the top preservation people in the country, maybe the Western Hemisphere, here today to give the presentation. Terry Laib of Laib Restoration. The talk today is on Henry Auler, Oshkosh's premier 20th century architect. He did not design this building, but he designed several buildings that Terry's going to talk about. Also, we're happy to say that two of Henry Auler's relatives are here today. Their father was Henry Witzke, whose middle name was Auler, Henry Auler Witzke, and he passed away about a year or two ago, I believe, December of 2022, I'm sorry. And Henry Auler took care of, he lived with the Auler family. They did not have children. I do have a little blurb from the Oshkosh Daily Northwestern that I was able to get from the Oshkosh Public Library Research Center here, Joan, who's absolutely fantastic. But this was the beginning of his obituary. It says, Henry Auler, local architect, dies at residence. Henry Auler, 66 of 91 Hazel Street, senior member of the architectural firm of Auler, Urian and Wirch, passed away of a heart attack at his home at 5:30 a.m. today. Made the Northwestern that night. He was a native of the city and had lived here his entire life. He was outstanding in civic and fraternal affairs. Mr. Auler was a director of the Oshkosh National Bank, past president of the Wisconsin State Association of Architects, member of the American Institute of Architects, a former director of the Chamber of Commerce, organizer and past president of the Investment Savings Association, one of the organizers of the City Planning Commission, and a former secretary of the city's Board of Appeals. He was a charter member of the Oshkosh Kiwanis Club, a member of several Masonic bodies, Elks Club, and past president of the Oshkosh area of Eagles. And with that introduction, I'm going to turn the floor over to Terry Laib. We do have, if anyone's interested, the Winnebago County Historical Society does need members. We do need volunteers. We do need officers and directors. And we have a sign-up sheet over there if you're interested in getting on the mailing list. Thank you very much. Terry.
I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I'm preaching to the choir today. Everybody here is interested in historic buildings, I think. And we have a couple relatives here in the front row, which is even better. And I chased down Shirley Maddox to get the correct pronunciation of Henry's last name, which she says is Auler, not Auler. So I've been chasing that route for a long time. The collection that I'm talking about today came to me by way of Sharon Wirch. Her husband passed away a couple years ago. I'm not clear on the dates. He had this collection of architectural files in his care and keeping for many years. And I had heard about them, but I didn't know much about them. I had understood that they were all William Waters documents. They were not. They were Henry Auler's documents. Sharon called me on a January afternoon to say that her husband had passed away. She had to sell their building, their office building on Sawyer Street. The museum didn't want them. The library couldn't take them. Nobody else was available. They had to go to the landfill. And I said, Sharon, do you hear that sound? And she said, no, what's that? I said, that's the sound of my truck starting. And I then immediately went over to Sawyer Street and spent a couple of days with Sharon going through it. It was one room full of packages and another room full of blueprints. And anything that said Wirch on it would have belonged to her father-in-law, who was one of the last partners in the Auler, Jensen, Brown, Wirch, Urian firm. And so, somewhere along the line, and I think by going through only a part of the collection so far, I think probably in the 1930s or early 40s, Henry ordered someone on his staff to collect and inventory everything, which they did, and we'll be getting to that. It's a key part of the gift, really, was this came with it, and every package is numbered. And there's a lot of packages. There's 357 packages. Some of them have over 20 jobs in them. We'll get to that. This was purchased by a local antique dealer at an Auler auction a couple years ago. I saw it in her antique store and immediately purchased it. It looks like it would have been a sign that hung outside, but I checked the directories here, and Henry Auler was in the Washington building from 1914 on. And so I don't know that it would have been hanging outside the Washington building, but maybe so. Anyway, I'm very happy I got it. This is this inventory that I've just pointed out to you. Now, we've had Mary Ann Offer and Shirley Maddox a year or two ago offered to come in and begin working on the collection. And as a result of that start, Mary Ann digitalized this entire collection here. And with your permission, I'll leave my cards out so that you can send me an email if you want me to forward you this inventory. And it's a lot of people who live in houses that may or may not be Henry Auler's. This may be very helpful to you. And it might give us some direction regarding where to go with the collection. Since Shirley and Mary Ann were back in my dungeon of an office, I have made improvements. At that time, everything was still in a black trailer sitting outside the office. Since then, everything is in totes, in dry storage, under a brand new roof in my shop in Murdoch. Those are typical packages. That's what they look like. Brown paper, grocery store strength, with a number on them. The number again corresponds pretty much to what's on the inventory. And there are 357 of these. So, the scope of my talk today is basically 1914 to 1931. You don't have all fall to sit here and have me go on about this. But I just need to have you understand, we have only opened a handful of these, maybe 5 or 6. And all of this material that you see here is a fraction of what came out of those packages, which include all of the original brochures that Henry Auler solicited while he was preparing these projects. And those brochures are here, and they're in mint condition because they've been in wraps for 100 years. So it's a real gold mine in terms of the history of local architecture here. This is his first house, and it's dated 1913. I don't know who the client is. He opened his business in 1908, the same year he married Linda. I show a business address for Henry Auler in 1914 of 46 Washington. William Waters was at 20 Washington, which was a brick building torn down for parking for the exclusive company 100 years ago. Okay? And so Waters was in that building. Henry must have been up here on the corner somewhere. After 1914, when he's credited with the design of the Washington building, all of his blueprints say FRA building, Fraternal Reserve building, which is the Washington building. So he was there throughout his entire rest of his career. Front view of this same very early house. This is the earliest print that I know that I have. I haven't been through all the blueprints yet either. There's a lot of them. Okay, this one is another early one, 1913. This is a warehouse for Needham National Lumber. And again, it's signed, and the masthead is Henry Auler. He doesn't have a partner at all. He's still working alone. He's only been in business for 4 or 5 years, but we know that he is working with William Waters. 1914, he's credited with William Waters of designing Oshkosh High School, which has become the Oshkosh City Hall. And this is notable for a couple of reasons, and that is it's described as neoclassical and beaux arts in style, and they figure that William Waters' attendance at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893 is where he became tuned into all the latest European architectural styles and the styles that were happening on the East Coast, brought them to Oshkosh. This may have been one of his first buildings in that new style. And Henry Auler is credited on the blueprints. I have that. Henry Auler, Waters and Henry Auler. Can you see that? So, I mean, this here we have proof. It's not hearsay, and that's what I'm presenting today. Is what we have in the file that is proof. Cool building. Very happy to see. Here's another very early one. This is the City of Oshkosh Municipal Warehouse. And this is 1960. Again, Henry Auler's designing alone. It's the only name on the map. I don't know if that building stands. I don't know where it was. I don't recognize it. 1919, he started working out of town. He did the Barlow Street Warehouse. And this one, you can see at the very bottom, James Jensen has joined his firm. And Jensen stays with him until Jensen retires into the 40s. And the remarkable thing I think about this job is that Henry Auler continued working for this company right up until 1937. And we have the pattern of all that work on this guy's warehouses and through all that time. So his clients were very loyal to him. The Victory Arch you may all be familiar with after the close of World War I, designed by Auler and Jensen, sculpted by the Oshkosh artist Merton Rugenhagen. Cook and Brown furnished the line that's in the file for the decorative plaster. Cost was $3,500. Newspaper articles in the file indicate that there was a feverish attempt to save the arch and move it up to the fairgrounds. Failed, and it was demolished the same year. Mrs. Lindy's house still stands today at the foot of Lindy Street on Washington, 1921. You might be able to make out some of the pencil scratching up here. I had a client 30 years ago wanting to change the roof lines on it, and I talked her out of it. A side note on this one, how could I have this print if I did this 30 years ago? A little sidetrack. I mentioned the brick building taken down behind the exclusive company for parking for that project. That brick building was William Waters' office for most of his career. It was, the city asked me to give them an offer for salvage on the building in 1994. I gave them $1,000. It was the middle of winter. There was no power. There was no heat. It was very cold. I went in with a couple of friends and an architect, and in the basement we found a stack of blueprints like this. That came out of there, as well as the 6 other original William Waters linens that I had. That was a lucky find. If I had not stepped up, that all would have gone to the landfill. Also, right next to this pile of blueprints sitting in water is a 4-drawer file cabinet. And on the top it said, all jobs completed in Oshkosh through 1933, Alfred Ganther. I have that at home in my studio. That's a record of early Oshkosh history. Mr. Ganther also had a camera, and he photographed everything. And so that's been a marvelous find. Again, typical demolition where everything goes, and I just feel very lucky to have been called to go look at it. So that explains how is it that I could have Mrs. Lindy's blueprints. And we also have Auler's ledgers from 1908 up through the 1940s. And they are cash received, invoices sent out, and we have 3 invoices Mrs. Lindy paid him for $2 each, probably for developing these plans. Different time. It's still a very cool house. It's a stucco exterior. Again, it's right at the end of Lindy Street, so we know how Lindy Street got its name.
Is that Tina's house?
Hmm?
Tina Aikman?
No. No. When I was dealing on it, was a university professor. This is what we know as the Washington Building, designed by Auler in 1914, and it was his until his death. His office was there until his death, and all of his blueprints will say Auler, Jensen, and Brown, FRA Building, Oshkosh. That's where his office was. It's a remarkable building. I do not have any blueprints on it. I have a large packet of information that he developed while he was designing this building, but I'm thinking maybe the blueprints are in the building somewhere. I don't know.
Is that the one that holds on top?
No, that's the Washington, Wisconsin National Library.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know where. No, that's Washington. Yes, it's right there. Wisconsin National Library. Well, Masonic is there, and then the
Wisconsin National Library, this building.
Right. We're going to skip this one because I think I didn't want to include that. This is, well, it's the Wagner Building. It was better known as the First Methodist Episcopalian Church in Oshkosh. Actually built and designed by Waters in 1874. Fire struck it several times before it was completed. Mr. Wagner bought it, never opened it as an opera house, and the First Methodist bought it from him and used it as a church right up until, I think, 1970. This is the original appearance of that building. And you can tell how old it is by horse-drawn carts in the street, dirt streets, and there's a tent on the corner, which I think was part of a reminder of the fire that had just occurred. And Phoenix Firehouse is behind it too, which also was destroyed by another fire.
So that was on Main Street?
Yep, right in the corner of Main and Mary. It still stands, you'll see. This is 1950. You can see that the building is getting to be in poor condition. If you look at the tower, the cupola on top, it looks like parts are starting to fall off. And so the Methodists had raised some money, they hired Auler and Jensen. And I have the original linens from this project. And that is thanks to Ted Urian, another architect who was part of that firm. In 2000, I bought it from the city for $1, which I paid too much. It turns out that's much of it.
You've used the term a couple times, the linens. What is that, please?
These are these. Up until about 1932, this is what you put architecture drawings on, and they are actually cloth. And you come up afterwards. This one is actually a school in Ripon or a warehouse in Ripon, done by Auler as well. But if you feel of it, you'll feel the fibers in it. One of my favorite proofs of that notion that these architectural plans were linens was that in William Waters' probate statement, he's donated 4 tons of linens to the ragman for the war effort, 1917. Damn! Please don't do that. Yeah, pencil and they colorize them too, as you can see. Very cool building. Again, 1924, neoclassical design. Again, another offshoot of what was hot then. And you're going to see a lot of that Beaux Arts and neoclassical design coming up. This is the Merritt Street side, in which they put in the art stop windows and the new sash. Again, thank you, Mr. Urian, for coming coming out of the woodwork and giving me those original prints because it drove our restoration project in 2002 through, I don't know if I ever finished it. This is the masthead on the original blueprints. Again, First Methodist Episcopal Church, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, 1924, Auler and Jensen. This is a major project. This is a vocational school and rec building. Again, on Algoma, 1925. I have all the original linens on these buildings. That is the vocational school building, which would have been attached to the beach building. Let me show you quickly here. There. So here's the beach building, which stands to this day. Here's the rec building, which stands to this day, facing Division Street. This sucker's gone for parking, which just, obviously, I haven't gotten over that. What a great elevation view of that building. Just phenomenal. Let me see what Dave just said. Yeah, he had to match, in this construction, he had to match the beach building. Well, he had helped Waters design it, so it was not a big deal for him to be able to match in materials. And now, of course, since it's been demolished.
When was that demolished, do you know?
When was it demolished? I do not know. I don't know. Here's the rec building, which is still in existence on Division Street. I drove by just to make sure the other day. Well, and sadly, all of the windows are blocked off. And I'm worried about that building, frankly. I don't know what the city might be thinking. I never have been able to figure that out. Again, that was the original layout.
It still has a beautiful floor inside.
Pardon me?
It still has a beautiful floor inside.
Good.
Excuse me. That vocational building, vocational school, I had Latin class there in 1950, 51 maybe.
Good for you.
So it must have been,
Good for you.
it must have
Did
been.
it look like that? That was the main entrance. And then that's the long view, because it was a really deep building, almost the full depth of that block. Well, good for you. That's
Who
great.
was your teacher? Who was it?
Miss Fenzel.
I had her too.
So it was probably late 50s or 60s.
When it came down. Yeah. I'm thinking it might have come down when they redeveloped the beach building into offices, because that had been the Beach Manual Arts Building, was the property of that. And so I'm thinking that when they converted that to all offices is probably when they decided to take the other building down. Again, sadly. You know, what happened to all that great material? The rec building is still pretty impressive from the street. And this is the Eagles Club, now known as Howard. Let me get this straight. That was 1927, and described by the architectural historians as English Revival Jacobean. And what I have discovered in getting ready for this talk today was you can place 600 architects end to end, and they'll never agree on a conclusion. Because in the same document, they're calling it all arts and something else, diametrically opposed to two. So I just picked one and went with it. This is detail from the architectural plans, and again, I have the linens for this building. This is just some of the close-up details that Auler and his men drew up, or women drew up. This was a sample sign advertising bowling alley in the basement, and dancing and so forth. We have all of that is in these packages. That's what's amazing. And so I'm going to credit Mr. Auler with the foresight to keep all that stuff. I think maybe in a way he thought he might someday refer back to that on another job. I would think from a contractor's point of view that's maybe what he was this is the Wagner Opera House. In 25, they did the Washington Building, they did the Masonic Temple, they did the Eagles Club. How could you get all this work? How could you get all that detail done? Especially when you look at the quality of the blueprints. Well, finally, on this Merrill School drawing, you can see traced by DH and HI. Drawing by WB, checked by WHB. And so that which would be, I'm not quite sure who that. Usually they're checked by HW, Henry Auler. Most of them are checked by Henry Auler. But he had a small crew working diligently in the office. The city directors don't tell you how big a company it was. They don't tell you how many people worked there. You get an address and that sort of thing. But at least this was the first clue as to how do you produce all that work. And then they supervised all the construction as well. With this, 1929, although the architect of record for the Payne Art Center, which is called, politically correct, Nathan Payne's Summer Home, on all the blueprints, all the way through to 1947, all of those blueprints came through this collection because Henry Auler's company was the local architect that ran the whole project and coordinated everything. And there, in that case, you have a package that says Payne Lumber Company, number 60, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I mean, that's the packages that you have. Now, I gave a talk a year ago in spring, and the archivist from the Payne Art Center approached me after the talk and said, well, I'm the archivist, could we have those documents? And I said, you're what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an archivist to take these. So I took everything over to them. The interesting thing about those documents, we opened one package, and my son pulled out a little brown, heavy-duty cardboard envelope, and in it pulled all the brass master keys for the entire building.
Oh my God.
Put it back in there. We put it back in there. This is an elevation view. The bottom one is an elevation view from New York Ave, looking north. This is what's called a cut view, which shows you all the framing on the interior. This is a sample, and some of these books are here. These are some of the books that came out of that packet. And so he's looking at, this one says standard plumbing fixtures. So he's looking at Kohler, Standard, and two other plumbing companies to give him bids for plumbing fixtures for Merrill School back in 1929. Same thing with here, plumbing equipment for schools. And again, when I open those packages, it's like I'm the first one to open the book. It's just striking to see here. The pages, there's no warp to them. And then once they had put the collection together, I'm thinking, say 1940, they kept it in a dry space all those years. And Sharon told me about her husband moving the whole package from a failed roof to a secure place, and on all the way over to Summer Street. So, I mean, it's just really a real blessing that we ended up with these things surviving. Usually they don't. I have a number of close-ups of Merrill School because it's such a remarkable Art Deco building. I mean, just the detail on the muttons and the spandrels and some of the inserted windows. There's a great shot there. That is frameable. Another detail. Again, these are all drawn in the office over here in the Washington building. Another phenomenal spandrel. And I don't know if any of those windows exist. I don't know if they were all torn out and replaced. I can't tell you. I haven't walked up to the school to tell you. I may do that someday. Typical light fixture that he solicited bids for. I don't know. Those are probably long gone as well. I don't know. This is a company that Henry Auler really liked to use. Grassler and Gazelle Shop in Milwaukee. And you will see drawings of light fixtures that they submitted to him for his house, and I think this one to the Masonic Lodge for their project. And throughout the packages that I've been in so far, this Milwaukee company has been his favorite lighting design company. And because of the correspondence, because we have all the correspondence in here too, which includes complaints, late payment, praise, but we have every letter that was associated with the document too, which gives you real insight into things. This is the Northwestern building, actually called the Hicks building in the file, and here's another one, package 4 and package 6. Those are, that's like this. And I have, obviously I have the original linens for that as well, which are works of art. Now let's go back. Can't believe I didn't put more in there, but I did not. Anyway, it looks like that building has been rescued by a developer. You may know better than I. But we have a lot of information on that building. Because there was so much mechanical that went into it for a printing company. There are just lots of threads, lots of stuff. I have, maybe oh, that's a Northwestern. What did I do here? I think I have one on order. Yeah, this is also in the Northwestern building. This drawing is right here. Again, Auler and his company designed this. You can come up and look at it afterwards, but just the level of detail is phenomenal. Architects aren't doing that today, I'll tell you. This is Henry Auler's house, built by him, and I said Elizabeth, I meant Linda, I'm sorry about that, family. In 1924, and we have extensive files from that thing, and that's 1924. He's in the middle of all these fabulous commercial projects here, and he's still able to build a house, and you can see in the correspondence, he's monitoring every detail of his new house. I think it's a great house. I took that in winter. As soon as I got the documents, and I found his house, I didn't know it existed, and I stopped there on Wednesday to photograph it again. Called Colonial Revival - Georgian Revival.
Here's a woman that lived there.
Oh. Wow.
Your childhood.
Oh, great. Excellent. You lived there up until 4 years ago?
I lived there from 1953 when I was born.
Oh.
Until 1968.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
it's a
good for
beautiful
you.
house inside.
Good for you. Now, somebody put an addition off on the back.
Right. That was before I lived there.
Okay.
Or after I lived there. Yeah.
Here's the original landscape plans for that house.
The landscape back when my parents bought it was just beautiful, and it had a brick driveway and brick walkways and.
Well, this is rare,
Yeah.
I have a couple of original linens for Frank Lloyd Wright, and the one exceptional thing that I have is I have the landscape plans for the Wright House on Homa, done by his son. But you almost never see this. But here's an architect who wanted to get his house just exactly right. And while we're on the subject, here's a collection of the books that were in the packet, from which he ordered all the stuff for his fabulous backyard. Art Stone Garden, and you look at here, of course, you'd like to send him a buck for that urn, Henry probably wasn't quite as impressed. 1924. And again, it's perfect. And he's got pages tagged, and he's got notes in here, some sales orders. There's another one of light fixtures that I think I have here under glass that I think is just a treasure. To think that a man would sit down with a pencil and draw something like that, it's just beyond belief. And here's a document from his lighting company. In there, they've got hand-drawn sketches on there of some possible lights for his home on Hazel Street, which is just gives you a great insight into what his life must have been like. So, where did I get this? Oh, this came in the file. This is their submittal for the new Winnebago County Courthouse in 1933 or 34. They did not get the job. We also have this. Let me back up. This went to a firm from Chicago, architect Julia Sandstead. Sandstead ran that whole job. Auler and Jensen were not involved in it, but when Sandstead got done building the courthouse, he went to work for Henry Auler. So he must have been impressed with Henry's building. This is an Auler painting, the proposal for the Merrill School project in 1930. And I got that at auction. And that hangs in my son's office on the room. It's a very, very cool perspective. Probably won the day with the school board, although I don't know. Probably like William Waters, he maybe didn't have a lot of competition. His reputation preceded him. So, when we did the William Waters Memorial over here a few years ago, there used to be a plaque, which I don't think is there anymore, because it's been changed. And the plaque said something to the effect of the best testimony to an architect is his enduring work. So these final buildings are a fraction of Henry Auler's life work. And again, I only took him from 1914 to 1931 and 32. There's another 20 years of work that he's got out there. But Eagles Club, Wisconsin National Life Insurance Building, both serious ones. Yeah, there's some nice close-ups of both the Northwestern building and on the right, Wisconsin National Life Insurance Building. Well, that concludes my talk. I really appreciate you all coming out. Now, feel free to come up and take a look at the stuff here. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. We could roll out that big blueprint, that linen.
Terry, you mentioned earlier Waters. They collaborated, but what was the relationship there between the two?
Some of the information on Auler's early was that he apprenticed with Waters. Yeah, and Waters died in 1917. So, but in 1914, they worked together on what became the Oshkosh High School and became City Hall. So they collaborated on that. And then I showed you one masthead here on collaborating on. No, it was the City Hall. It was the Oshkosh High School, where it's both William Waters and Henry Auler. So, and then, and what's notable about the City Hall building is, according to the Madison architects, is that it was William Waters' last building. He died in 1917. And so the torch was passed to Henry Auler.
Who was Mrs. Lindy?
Pardon me?
Who was Mrs. Lindy?
Mrs. Lindy, I don't know, but she had a street name there.
I know, that's right. It's very short.
Well, so I have spent a fair amount of time in the Oshkosh City Directory just in the last couple of weeks, and you may be amazed what you can learn there. And I haven't done a search on her. There's a lot of stuff here, but she could be a whole story by herself. 19 that early in the century to have a street named after you, if you're I'm assuming she's a widow or whatever. But to see some of the women's names come up in these projects is pretty sweet.
Was the Northwestern building commissioned as, for the Northwestern? It used to say like Hicks building.
It was called the Hicks building, but Hicks died in 1921. But he owned the Northwestern. Yeah. And in the file, and on the prints, it's called the Hicks Building. So people were loyal to it. Probably his money was still invested in that construction. Yeah.
His statue is right in the corner there. His bust.
That's him.
That's Colonel Davis.
Where did Henry Auler receive his education?
He went to Oshkosh High Schools and then to UW-Madison. And then from Madison, he came back, and I understand he worked for Waters. He could have worked for Stevens, who was an architect at the time too, but Madison is where he got his architectural degree. Great.
What the Payne, was that later?
Pardon me?
The Payne Art Center?
Payne Art Center was drawn in 1929 and completed in 1947.
So I don't have it, but.
I gave all my documents to the Payne, so I don't have it. I don't have anything.
We have some, Lacey has some, but I don't know what she has exactly. They do that building.
Yeah. Well, they were the architects that ran the whole project, and then they would coordinate with Mr. Payne would change his ideas, and they would coordinate with New York City's architect for a redraw.
Do you have the original plans for Merrill School?
Yeah. Yeah, Mary.
I just wanted to know, because I know that list well, it was amazing to me how broad an area he provided services over. So as much as he did all these buildings here, he was also doing comparable buildings in a lot of other places for smaller versions, for smaller towns, and smaller kinds of important buildings. Lots and lots and lots of schools. I don't know how much in Brooklyn College.
A lot of
So many Brooklyn College buildings.
He's got a bank in Armorough, a bank in Berlin. So we have all these studies of bank vaults from multiple suppliers, and he's sifting all through them all to find the best one, probably the best price and all that. But yeah, he casts a very wide net. The other thing that's I've learned with cracking this open, because this does not, there are very few years on this list. You don't know where you're at. So I would have thought, I had always assumed, and so I was getting ready for you all here, that a 4 and a 6 would have been 1920. No, that's the Hicks, that's the Northwestern building. That's 1930. So what I'm finding, to my amazement, is that I go down the list here, maybe 2 pages in, I'll find something from 1920. So you can't really make any assumptions, which makes me think that Henry Auler did not compile this himself, but somebody was said, look, you got 2 weeks, wrap it all up in brown paper, number it, put the thing down, and so you get surprises in every package. So to finish up, I don't know, the best place I don't know what to do with these things. And I learned a very tough lesson 25 years ago, because I had gotten the original Waters linens on a fabulous federal house for my neighbors on Washington, and they were just good friends of mine, and so I gave them to them, and I said, just leave them with the house, but you're never going to leave Oshkosh. Within 3 years, they sold the house, and he took the prints with them. Yes. So my policy has been, if I have your house here in a print, you can pay me to make a copy. And my hope is that ultimately we would find a climate-controlled repository for not only this stuff, but for the way water stuff that I have. And any other, there's a lot of Waters prints that are out there in private homes, still with the homes that were built, that might be collectible into a single place to go. So ultimately, that's my hopes. As it is now, they're in plastic totes, safe for the time being. My son has bought the company, he's taken over, but he's very clear. If I get hit by the bus going out the door, he won't have time to do anything with any of this stuff. It's going in a dumpster.
No.
Yes. Beware. have the same attitude that I have toward historic documents. But anyway, so you've all been put on notice here.